Hello, my sensational students. Welcome to Bloom and Grow Education. My name is Meredith. Today's lesson is for Year 5 students who are preparing for the Gifted and Talented test. It's a writing lesson. It's another one of my feedback lessons. So we're going to have a look at the stimulus, have a look at one of my students' writing, and then I'm going to look at what they've done well, areas that they can improve, and research shows that that will also help to improve your own writing. This is part of the Wildlife at Risk series. So there's a few lessons in this series, and you can go and check that out in the description box. All of the links for all of the lessons are there for you to check out. So this is the stimulus that I chose for us to have a look at. So we've got this poor polar bear clinging to life on this tiny iceberg. And the text that we are going to be looking at is called Secret Mission, the Penguin Invasion. So I'm going to read it through, and then I'm going to have a chat at areas that she can improve and areas that she has done well. And I like this story because it's a little bit different to some of the other stories that I had from my students. A lot of them are about rescuing the penguins. A lot of it is about coming from the polar bear's perspective and the rescuing the polar bear. And that's completely fine. A lot of them did a really good stories around that idea, but I just like this one because it's a little bit different. And one of the ideas that when we were brainstorming, so if you have a look at my introductory lesson in this series, we do a unique idea development brainstorm. So one of the ways that when you're trying to demonstrate that you are academically gifted, you need to show that you can think really uniquely. And that can be tricky. So I do a unique idea development brainstorm to help try to come up with unique ideas. So one of the ones I came up with was, what happens if it's some penguins or some other animals dressed up as polar bears? Maybe it's like penguin Halloween or something like that. So that's where she's gotten this idea. So let's have a look at it. There are some grammatical issues that need to be fixed, and I'm just going to fix them as I read it aloud. Millie and I were born in 1831 in the North Pole. Back then, things were rough. There were polar bears here making innocent penguins captives, taking innocent penguins as captives. Our place was beautiful, just us penguins, a cute type of bird that lived in a paradise with the perfect blue sky. We had water so clear you could see the reflection of it. There was this squad. We call ourselves the I Believe I Can Fly Society. And on the first day of November, we decided to make a plan to vanquish the maleficent polar bears and kick them out. The plan was for two penguins to dress up into one bear and destroy their base. Back then, the North Pole was bigger. Millie and I, Jack, were chosen to do the plan. This was the beginning of the Penguin Revolution. There were two parts of Antarctica. One part, there were the camps. The other, torture. We were desperate to burn the polar bears' camp. The I Believe I Can Fly group was the only group that was still fighting back from the wretched creatures. Millie and I took a while to get there. At one point, they got stuck on a smooth little iceberg, which they were stuck on. Then the iceberg flipped over. I could taste the saltiness of the water. Fortunately, we penguins can swim and the suit is waterproof. It took us nearly 2 hours to get out of the water with the suit on. I could see in Millie's eyes that she was in agony right now. The rest of the journey, we dragged our fins or legs slowly in pain to make sure we did not get into that situation again. When we arrived, we got the only 2 sticks we could find. Millie took them, lit them on the flame, and put it on the iceberg. The polar bears looked in horror and started running away and jumping into the sea, saving their smooth white tails. There was even a polar bear who got stuck on the iceberg. We were just two mischievous penguins that melted a polar bear camp, blurted Millie to the polar bears. Well, good luck getting out of here alive, chuckled the polar bear. Millie and I ran out of the luxurious burnt camp and quacked, mission accomplished. Even though Millie and I got the polar bears out of Antarctica, they always came back. A little pebble can make a big difference. Okay, let's have a look at the things that she has done well. So as I said before, I really like the idea. I think that is a unique idea that it's nice to. I think it's a unique idea and it's fun. And there's some interesting things that happen along the way. I like that she's tried to set it into 1831. I really like this part here about running away, saving their smooth white tails. So rather than just saving your tail, saving your smooth white tails. I like that. And one of the things that she has been doing is that so we have our standard story arc where we've got the polar bears. So we establish in the orientation in the beginning, in the introduction, that we've got this overarching problem of getting rid of these polar bears. And then we have this climatic spike, this interesting moment where they are on the iceberg and it flips over, and that's connecting to the stimulus there. And then she resolves it over here and ends it. And then they keep on coming back. So there's lots of really good things in there that are enjoyable. So let's look at areas where she could improve. Now, I asked her if she said that she wrote this in 25 minutes, and she said that she did, but I'm a little bit suspicious. Most students can't write much more than a page in 25 minutes, let alone 2 and a bit pages. And I'm only commenting on that. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if she wrote over. In the GAT test, you will have 25 minutes, and at the end of 25 minutes, you need to put your pen down. So whether she's been practicing 25 minutes or not, I'm encouraging her to do that. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't, I don't know. But my point in saying this to you is don't feel bad that, well, I can't write 2 and a bit pages in 25 minutes. Some students can, some students can't. Don't feel, I would say 1 page or maybe 1 page and a bit is about normal for 25 minutes of writing. So the main thing that I would have loved to have seen differently in this story is I would have loved to have more of what happens when they actually attack the polar bear camp, because that is meant to be the big exciting part of the story. So some of this stuff, so I think this stuff here is important, that they've got these horrible polar bears that keep on coming in, and this, I believe I can fly because penguins can't fly, idea is clever. And then they dress up as the polar bear for the penguin revolution. But I'm wondering if this part here could be taken out. So there are 2 parts to the camp. It doesn't really matter that there are 2 parts to the camp. And I know that what she's doing here with this part where the iceberg flips over is trying to make sure she's clearly connecting to the stimulus. But that's the exciting part of the story. And I think that you could have a better, more exciting part of the story. And in order to have that, we need to cut some room out so you've got enough time to write, which also means cutting out that. All right, and then coming in here, and all the time that got put into this, now we're going to put that into here and writing a really cool battle of what happened with these polar bears, because that's the whole point. So she's focused on the journey of getting to the polar bears, and that's what all the time has gone into. And then it's like, oh, we just stabbed them and lit them on fire, and boom, they were gone. And we want that focus to be in that part where she's when the attack on the polar bears happened. So let's see what we can do to fix this. Okay, so we got the only 2 sticks we could find. We took them, lit them on flame, and put them in the ice on the iceberg. So the polar bears looked in horror, running away. So this might have been somewhere you could bring in the stimulus, that the polar bears started jumping on the icebergs and swimming away, or something like that. All right, let's stop there. Let me give you a catch up on where we're up to. So we pulled ourselves into the enemy encampment. So just the It's just a fancy way of saying the enemy camp. And from the size of our Trojan bear. So you might have heard of the Trojan horse. There's a horse that, a giant horse that was a gift. And they put it, there were enemy soldiers in it. And during the night, the enemy soldiers jumped out and attacked the townspeople. So I've done a little bit of a play on note that it's a Trojan polar bear. Now, there is an argument that a polar bear isn't going to know what a Trojan horse is, let alone a penguin is not going to know what a Trojan horse is, let alone a Trojan polar bear is. But we've also got penguins dressed up in a polar bear suit. So given that we're already in the land of the silly, maybe we just go with it. Then with an exciting roar, we ripped off the suit and began shooting our skeleton fish head arrows at the polar bear. So in the original story, she said that they had sticks and they lit everything on fire. But I sort of imagine, you've got the fish head sort of looks like that, and then it's got like this part here that sort of reminds me of an arrow. And they're penguins, they're going to be eating lots of fish, so they're going to have lots of fish heads around. So I just thought it was a little bit of fun. One got stuck in the bum of the polar bear as he raced away. Another skidded on the ice as he tried to duck the arrows. And then he went flying off the iceberg. We could even put almost splashing into the water. So I sort of feel like we need one more thing. I'm starting to have a little bit of fun with it now. So mission accomplished. Millie and I slapped fins together doing a high one because I don't have 5 fingers. They have one fin. So but that's just me having a little bit of fun with it now. I'm getting a little bit silly. And then from there, I can bring in that ending that we had before, which was, so luxurious and burnt aren't 2 words that go together. I'm sure they felt that it was wonderful that I had burnt it, but luxurious doesn't really go with the word burnt. Millie and I ran out of the burnt camp and quacked mission accomplished. Even though we got the bears out of Antarctica, they always came back. And maybe you could put so we began our plans for next time. That message at the end, like the moral of the story, a tiny pebble can make a big difference. You could put that on. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a bit of a young thing to do. I think that that's something that like a year 1 or 2 teacher might teach a child to do, because they're trying to teach about fables and morals and stories. But I think up this end of primary education that's not really necessary. That sort of brings down the maturity of your story. Doesn't mean that your story can't have a lesson. You just don't want to clumsily put a sentence at the end that says, the lesson I learned is like that. That's sort of for younger kids. Okay, all right. So I hope you had fun with that one. That was a fun one for me to write about too. That brings me to the end of the lesson. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'd really appreciate if you could please thank me in return by liking this video and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And I look forward to seeing you at the next lesson.